I am a 30-something breast cancer survivor. I am unable to have penetrative sex, as I can tolerate 1-inch insertion with some pain and bleeding at the moment, as my breast cancer treatment has put me through quick and harsh temporary menopause. I have been seeking treatment for this side effect from my doctor and am actively working on solving this issue. I currently have a long-distance boyfriend due to my need to continue chemotherapy close to home and not move provinces, so it has not been a big issue. I am feeling pretty insecure because I don't know how long these side effects might last. I will have to go on hormonal treatment that causes similar side effects. Would this be a deal breaker for most men? I want to please my partner and also want to be sexually active in this way. Thank you all for your input. I never imagined that I would get so many responses. Thank you especially for sharing your personal experiences with similar issues. I cannot respond to all of you, but will get to those who sent me a private message. I want to clarify that my boyfriend is in no way demanding or pressuring me into sex. He is very gentle with me. He is also very capable of pleasing me in other ways. This question stems more from me feeling guilt and self-conscious about my situation. Please understand that the changes a person undergoes while having and being treated for cancer are immense. I also want to reassure you that I have every reason to believe that I will beat this. My last scan at the end of October showed no evidence of cancer. I am currently on a chemotherapy treatment that does not cause systematic side effects like those portrayed on TV. My chemotherapy is designed to target only cancerous cells. Very interesting stuff. It's called Catzilla for those of you who are interested. I am on this to reduce my chances of recurrence. Story 1. My wife once had a case of what turned out to be recurring bacterial vaginosis, and for a 2-year period we were infrequently able to have penetrative sex. The longest consecutive period we couldn't have sex was 6 months, and that period started 1 month after our wedding. It was very hard because we both wanted it, but it was excruciatingly painful for her. There were a few times when she tried to soldier through it, but I stopped because it was clear she was in pain and not enjoying it. It took time and effort on both our parts, but we were able to find other ways to be intimate. Penetrative sex is not the be-all, end-all of intimacy. And if you love each other, then you'll be able to find other ways to express your love for each other. If your man loves you and cares about you, he'll work with you and understand your limits. Just be open and honest about it so that he understands the situation. Edit. A lot of people have asked how my wife resolved her bacterial vaginosis. Here is a copy of a direct message I sent to someone on the subject explaining it. She went to a gynecologist who didn't really take her seriously for a while, which was surprising because this doctor was also a woman. She did go through multiple rounds of various medications with this doctor, but it always came back after a little while. Then she found a different gynecologist who really took it seriously. That doctor recommended all the usual stuff, cotton underwear, probiotics, etc. But she also recommended that my wife stop using Vagisil and start washing intimate areas with regular warm water. Cleared up shortly after that and hasn't returned. Apparently, after some time of using it, your body can develop a kind of aversion to Vagisil, and it can cause recurring bacterial vaginosis infections. I don't know the medicine, I'm not a doctor, but that's kind of the gist of what the doctor said. My wife and I have had many conversations about how absurd it is that a company can sell a product marketed as clean and healthy that actually ends up causing infections. If you're using Vagisil or any other special soaps, consider stopping using them, even if they're marketed as pH balance. Story 2. As a man, if my significant other was going through something like that, sex would be the last thing on my mind. Your safety, comfort, and health are what are more important than sex. If someone doesn't understand that, then you shouldn't be with that person. Now, if you're in the mood, then any form of intimate affection would be more than enough. I would say, for me at least, that would be enough. Knowing what you're going through, your significant other should understand. Story 3. These are my thoughts about different situations where I wouldn't be able to have penetrative sex with my partner. If I were in a relationship with someone I could never have penetrative sex with, it would be an absolute deal breaker. If my girlfriend couldn't have penetrative sex for some time due to some type of issue, it would be no problem at all as long as she has a plan to address it within some time frame. If my girlfriend had cancer, whether we could have penetrative sex or not would be the least of my worries and probably wouldn't even cross my mind. I just want her to be healthy. Just focus on getting better and talk to your partner about this. He will probably reassure you and tell you not to worry about it. Story 4. It may be a deal breaker, but provided that the two of you are not trying for a child, it shouldn't be. It's not the sex itself that is most important, it's the feelings of intimacy and value that come with the sex. You both have, I assume, a pair of hands and a tongue, and there are various inventive ways to use those to provide pleasure. Be upfront about the problem and what you are doing to fix it. If you act like you're missing penetrative sex, he will be more comfortable with it not being a part of the relationship. Story 5. I'm going to be honest, this would definitely be a deal breaker for some people, but absolutely wouldn't matter for others. I think what's important is that you validate that it's okay to have the fear of this that you have, but also recognize that some things in your life are out of your control. What you do have control over is finding the right person to whom this won't matter. Story 6. My girlfriend had breast cancer this past year, and she's all better now. Chemotherapy put her into menopause. We didn't have any sex for 8 months this year. It's not a big deal. I'm just grateful she's alive. If your boyfriend doesn't feel the same way, then trust me, he's not a keeper. When you are all better, there are lubricants made for people who have had breast cancer. They must be estrogen-free. There is also a vaginal suppository you should use to create lubrication so you don't get vaginitis. Your medical ecologist should be able to help you with all the brand information. For now, just focus on getting better. And if you're super horny for some reason and have to have sex in between chemotherapy treatments, then don't forget a condom is a must because of the risk of bacterial infection. Story 7. As a temporary issue, the lack of penetration in a relationship is only temporary. There is always anal and oral. As a long-term issue, never having penetration again might be a deal breaker. Story 8. Fellow breast cancer survivor here, also in my 30s. I had my ovaries removed as part of the treatment and can't take hormones. Penetrative intercourse is very difficult for me too, even with treatment and physical therapy. I miss it and my husband misses it too, but as many others have said already, it's much better to be alive and otherwise healthy than to focus on penetrative sex. Focus on building intimacy, sharing important moments, talking a lot, and looking for alternatives together. As hard as it is now, remember that your relationship is built on a myriad of different things, sex being one of them. So maybe you'll have to experiment with different ways of doing it. Just really make a conscious effort not to blame yourself, because it's not something that you have full control over. Story 9. If my wife was going through cancer, I think penetration would be the last of my thoughts. I mean, yes, I love having sex with her, but never if it caused her pain. If the person really cares about you, they would be more than okay with waiting until you were ready. Don't rush it for anyone, you will know when you are ready. Best of luck. Hope you get better soon. Story 10. Hi, cancer survivor here. Not sure how your white blood cell count or platelet count is, but don't risk the bleeding if it is low. Infection is the last thing you want or bleeding that has trouble stopping. You are top priority. Take care of yourself. Story 11. Penetrative sex? Not important. Intimacy? Very important. Any decent guy will understand that penile vaginal intercourse is painful for you and won't want to hurt you. But intimacy is very important, and there are lots of other things you can do with a partner that will give both him and you intimate sexual pleasure. Story 12. I am a 42-year-old man. I would have no problem being with a partner in your situation. When I was 18, it would have been different, but 18-year-old guys are best avoided anyway. At this point in my life, I am much more focused on emotional intimacy. I cannot say at what age I passed the need for traditional intercourse, but I can tell you there are many wonderful guys out there who will not care at all. Story 13. If you mean purely vaginal is a no-go, then there are other ways. Anal, oral, or manual. You could tie him up and use a pocket toy if he likes that. Pleasure comes in all shapes and sizes. Story 14. One of the most callous, rude, and apathetic people I know had his girlfriend diagnosed with breast cancer. He took off work every appointment to be there for her. He was actually pretty supportive and knew a good bit about it. You could tell by how informed he was. I would hope your boyfriend would surprise you the same way. I think most people, and certainly anyone worth keeping around, would put your health, happiness, and comfort first during the battle. Story 15. Personally, if my significant other couldn't have penetrative sex due to physical pain, PTSD, or really for most any reason, it wouldn't be an issue for me. The only issue would be if she just didn't find me sexually attractive, I guess. I love my wife and would never put her through anything that would harm her in any way. Or at least I try not to. You should probably be upfront about it. The right guy will understand. Story 16. To me, it wouldn't matter if my wife was going through this. I guess I'm using my hand for a while. Anything else is selfish and not love, in my opinion. If my wife was told tomorrow she could no longer have sex ever again, I'm not leaving. I'm not cheating. Marriage and love are so much more than sex. Story 17. Sex doesn't have to be penetration. Sex is whatever you deem it to be. Touching, stroking, licking, whatever. Your partner should understand and respect that closeness above and beyond penetration. Story 18. My fiancée and I don't engage in penetrative sex often as it hurts her. We still have the best sex life I've experienced in any relationship. We just do everything else and masturbate together. Story 19. One of my best friends and his girlfriend at the time went through the same thing when she had cancer. You don't need to stress at all about that. She beat cancer and then they got married. If sex is that important to him, then he shouldn't be in a relationship. Keep your head up and believe in yourself. Best of luck. Story 20. Sorry, I'm a lady, but I work in healthcare. Your oncologist may not be the best person to give you help with your pelvic inflammatory disease issues. I would seek the advice of, at the very least, a gynecologist, but if you live in or near a big enough center, I would look for someone like a gynecologist or general practitioner who specializes in sexual health. If it is a hormonal or lubrication issue, that can potentially be fixed with a number of easy treatments, such as creams, pills, or patches. I would definitely ask your oncologist if they could refer you to someone who specializes in your issue. You wouldn't ask a heavy-duty diesel engine mechanic to patch a crack in your windshield. Story 21. Are you on or thinking about any clinical trials? They normally have very strict rules on sexual encounters. I would honestly focus on fighting cancer more than anything. Being alive and healthy should be your only goal, and everything else will fall into place after. Good luck on your fight. Story 22. Deal breaker? No, not at all. If we're together, we're together. We'll work through our problems regardless of the nature together and enjoy each other in our own unique way. Story 23. I was in a relationship where we could not have penetrative sex for 6 months. Not a deal breaker at all. Life happens. You need medical treatment, you hurt your back, you have a kid. All kinds of things can happen in life that put sex on hold. Anyone with realistic expectations will be able to acknowledge this. It is great that you are conscientious of your boyfriend's desires, but I think now is the time to focus on yourself. And besides, there is plenty of non-penetrative stuff you can do in the meantime. Story 24. I wouldn't care if I was your man. Focus on your health and don't worry about him. To answer your question, I wouldn't care given the circumstances. Story 25. If my girlfriend was in the same situation, I would understand. My mother is a breast cancer survivor. I support you. Patience is what he has to have. If he loves you, he must. You are going to be better eventually and healthy too. You must not worry about that. Cancer and stress is a combination no one recommends. Not trying to be offensive, but he can take care of himself for a while if he has urges. It is not your fault. I know I would. I'm sending prayers to you. Everything will be all right in the end. Story 26. Honestly, it would depend on the guy. It's very much a case-by-case basis and what stuff the guy can do. If my wife had cancer and sex was off the table for a while, I'd be more concerned about her getting better, and she would have no issues with me masturbating when I need to. Other guys might see the lack of sex as a deal breaker. To this, I say that if a guy sees sex as more important than you getting better, then you're better off without him. Story 27. Hey, not a man, but I think you might be interested in trying the On-It ring. Not an advertisement or whatever. I've just seen it brought up in a lot of other threads and it's helped some people. On-It stackable customizable penetration ring. Of course, if it's painful, then it might not be usable right now, but maybe further along in your healing. Best wishes. Story 28. My significant other just had some precancerous cells removed from her cervix, so no sex for a while. No problem whatsoever for me. She offered other things, which is awesome, but I told her it's completely up to her. Story 29. If you are interested in a sexual relationship, you can find other ways to pleasure your partner. If they insist on penetrative sex, they are not looking out for you. Honestly, just having a partner who is interested in pleasuring me would be more than enough for me. Story 30. If this happened to my girl, I would forego penetrative sex with her for as long as it took until she was okay. Get better first, work out those details later. I wish you well. Story 31. As someone more geared towards emotional intimacy than sexual intimacy, it would not be a deal breaker for me temporarily or permanently. Best of luck to you and do have a happy holiday wherever you are in the world. Story 32. It honestly depends on the people in the relationship. Personally, it's more about the intimacy than the penetration. There are many different ways to have sex that don't involve vaginal penetration. Even without penetration, you can still do various things. You can discuss toys with your partner or, more importantly, communicate your concerns with him directly. Talking to your partner about hard topics is important and healthy in and out of the bedroom, even if it's difficult to bring up certain topics. Best of luck in your bedroom adventures and your recovery. Story 33. Guy here. There are a lot of other ways to get close and be intimate with a man besides penetration. Any guy worth sleeping with will support your health needs first and then be creative in the bedroom second. There are lots of fun, satisfying options for the right guy. Story 34. Sex is not really that important in a relationship, and people who say otherwise are shallow. If he leaves you, good riddance. A real man would stay with you through thick and thin. Story 35. My wife has spina bifida. She was lucky and can still walk with braces, but she has almost no feeling from the waist down. She also cannot control her bowels. This means that sometimes during penetrative sex accidents happen. It doesn't bother me because I love her. This also means we have sex once or twice a month because the conditions have to be just right. She makes up for it in other ways, but it is hard for her because she feels like she cannot do her wife duties. Her words, not mine. She also has tons of scars around her chest, back, and legs from surgery, but that is nothing and doesn't matter. The fact is that sex is something that, to us, is important, but it's not the sex itself as much as being intimate with each other. There are more ways to do this than just sex. We love taking showers together. We are vulnerable and we can wash each other, which is nice. The short of it is that your man's sex drive and what he needs sexually will be unique to him, but besides orgasms, intimacy and learning how you two can do that with each other is just as special and satisfying as having penetrative sex.